Norway, formed by glaciers during the Ice Ages. Whether frozen or flowing, water continues to shape and restructure its landscapes to this day, influencing the lives of its inhabitants. Home to an extraordinary wilderness, hosting animals perfectly adapted to the rough conditions of the far north. Water is omnipresent, giving the country its unique character between fjords and fells. Norway stretches from the Arctic Ocean in the north to the Skagerrak Strait in the south, a distance of over 1,570 kilometers. An impressive mountain range forms a spine along most of the narrow country's length. Norway is one of the planet's most mountainous countries. More than a quarter of the country lies at over 1,000 meters above sea level. On the Jotunheimen Range, northern Europe's highest mountains, some snow still remains at the end of May. Sensing the approaching spring, reindeer move from the warming valleys into the high mountains, where they will spend the summer months. They are well adapted to life in these fells, highland moors, and the barren landscapes. At this time, these members of the deer family can only feed on the lichen that grow here on the bare rocks. But even this food source is still mostly covered by a blanket of snow. Reindeer are able to smell plants hidden under a thick layer. Their wide front hooves can be spread out, making effective tools for exposing their food. In the long run, this is an energy-intensive undertaking. But it's the only way they can survive in the wintry mountains of Norway. By May, the days are already very long this far north in Norway. The sun has a lot of time to warm away the winter, bit by bit. It begins to thaw everywhere. Droplet by droplet, the water frees itself from the grip of the ice. Drops coalesce to form rivulets. And finally, waterfalls. Meltwater crashes down everywhere, and with it, life slowly returns to the valleys below. Thanks to the annual snowmelt, Norway has exceptional water resources. The sun is exposing more and more fells, completely changing the face of this barren landscape within days. Everyone wants to come out of hiding. The alpine azalea carpets the landscape with color, flowering at an altitude of up to almost 2,000 meters. The typical plant of the fells is cotton grass. It has already developed its inflorescence. This is the final confirmation that winter has come to an end. The first migrants are now returning. Pockets of snow are the final reminders of the months-long freeze. Relieved of their burden, the fells show how barren they truly are. But almost everywhere, they're covered by a delicate layer of green. The largest fell, and at the same time the largest high plateau in Europe, stretches over 9,000 square kilometers in southern Norway. The Hardangervidda. It lies at an altitude of over 1,100 meters throughout. Wide plains and domes, ground down by glaciers during the last ice age, dominate this landscape. The Hardangervidda is considered the most typical example of a Norwegian fell. The abundance of meltwater here is the reason any plants are able to survive at all. A sprawling layer of ground plants get what they need from streams and lakes. On the western side of the Hardangervidda, the water plunges spectacularly over rock faces and into the fjords. Some of Europe's highest and most impressive waterfalls can be found here. The incredible amount of potential energy is often used to produce electricity. Many streams are regulated. Even here in Norway, natural waterways are becoming scarcer. Further down, streams consolidate to form rivers. These are the highways of salmon and brown trout. In summer, they swim up here to reach their spawning grounds. In the estuaries, fresh water from the mountains mixes with salty ocean water, causing substantial problems for many animals. Jellyfish, unable to swim against the current, drift into the river's fresh water, ending in their certain death. Young whiting escaped from their dying host that had provided protection from predators with its poisonous tentacles. The salmon and brown trout must also take a rest to allow their bodies to adjust to the changed conditions. As young fish, they migrated out of the rivers into the open ocean where they grew up. Once sexually mature, they head back into the rivers where they once hatched. Now they are here to spawn themselves. Some obstacles seem insurmountable. Rapids like these can lead to serious traffic jams. Most attempts don't achieve success immediately. Many totally miss their mark. Increased hormone levels drive the fish to peak performance, releasing unusually high amounts of energy. They don't give up. Only the fittest animals will reach their spawning grounds. In central Norway, the Dovrefjell stretches over more than 1,500 square kilometers. Its landmark is the Snowhetta. At 2,200 meters, it towers over the surrounding plateau. The national park was declared in the 1970s and has a special attraction. Muskoxen. Though their name suggests otherwise, these creatures are not a type of cattle, but are rather the world's largest caprine, a most unusual species related to both goats and sheep. This Europe's only population of these animals living in the wild is split into a few small wandering herds. Originating in Greenland, they were introduced into Dovrefjell before the Second World War. After a tough start, the animals have adapted well. Today, their numbers are continually on the rise. Currently, a few hundred muskoxen roam the Dovrefjell. But their future is by no means secure. There is no genetic exchange with other populations. Global warming is also making it harder for them to survive and flourish. They are animals that like the cold. Wet conditions are hard for them to bear. Numerous animals perish from various diseases annually. Just below the tree line, thick birch forests dominate the landscape. These forests only occur in Scandinavia and are unusual for these latitudes, where conifers would usually be expected. Most trees here are draped in old man's beard lichen. The forest appears almost spooky. It's considered an indicator for clean air. It's so sensitive to pollutants that it has already disappeared in many areas. Above the forests, only tiny plants like the creeping dwarf birch are able to survive. Otherwise, mosses and lichens characterize the area, creating a natural mosaic of different shapes and colors. The reindeer lichen rightly carries its name. It's one of the preferred foods of the deer of the north. Reindeer is the only species in the family that has ever been partially domesticated. For around 5,000 years, people have been working with reindeer in a type of natural pastoralism. The animals follow their own rhythm, moving from their winter to their summer ranges and back again. Their herders, mainly the Sami of the far north, join them on these migrations. Now in summer, These animals mainly feed on herbs, grasses, and the leaves of the dwarf shrubs. Today, most of Scandinavia's reindeer are domesticated. Wild reindeer are now rare in Norway. Even in summer, Norway is never fully free of ice and snow. Glaciers cover an area the size of Luxembourg. Around 150 kilometers northeast of Bergen lies Jostedalsbreen, not just Norway's mightiest glacier, but the largest on the whole European mainland. – 100 kilometers in length and up to 500 meters thick in some parts. It covers an area of 500 square kilometers. The Nygaardsbreen is one of over 50 sidearms of this mighty glacier, all making their way into the valleys from the plateau. Glaciers can only form in very specific areas, where more snow falls in winter than can melt in the summer months. The blue color is typical for glaciers. Through the alteration of freezing and thawing, as well as the ever-increasing pressure, the density of the ice becomes greater, while the oxygen content decreases. While fresh snow reflects almost all light, giving it its white color, the compressed ice of the glaciers absorbs more light, mostly reflecting the blue parts of the spectrum. White loose snow is converted to rock-hard bluish glacier ice over many decades. Every summer, the glacier loses tons of its ice, some of which is thousands of years old. Only when enough snow falls in winter can these losses be compensated. But the current changes in climate are tipping the balance of this system. The Jostedalsbreen glacier shares the fate of many other European glaciers, gradually melting away. In the hot summer of 2018 alone, the leading edge of Nygaardsbreen pulled back around 100 meters. The glacier-polished rock now lies far from the edge of the ice, silent witnesses testifying to the size of this glacier tongue in years past. Most climate models predict a gloomy future for Norway's glaciers. Up to 90% could have melted away by the end of the century. The consequences will be catastrophic, not just for Norway. It's not without reason that glaciers are considered an indicator of the changing global climate. Currently, the valleys are profiting from the meltwater. In addition, a much more pleasant climate has taken hold. But space here is limited, with the cultivated landscape coming into ever greater conflict with the natural one. Some animals, like the badger and the crane, profit from this proximity to humans. In open meadows and fields, it's much easier to find food than it is in the montane forests. In the lower-lying regions of Norway, boreal coniferous forests dominate the scene. They are the equivalent of Russia's taiga. But here too, lakes, swamps and bogs regularly interrupt the endless forests. A typical bird of these northern lakes is the horned grebe. Both parents take care of the young, tirelessly diving for aquatic insects to feed the chicks. Typically for grebes, the parents provide their offspring with a water taxi service. Once in a while, the chicks switch their transport provider. But when this taxi service decides there are already enough passengers on board, jumping on becomes more challenging. Hidden deep in the forests, many bogs and swamps remain untouched. They provide important refuges for both animals and plants. Male-banded demoiselles perform eye-catching displays, hoping to attract the attention of a female. Some have already been successful, taking on the typical wheel formation of mating damselflies. This is the only way their sex organs, that are situated in completely different places, can come into contact. These forest swamps are also home to Norway's largest land animal. Everyone knows it, but many may never get to see one. The moose. It prefers the proximity to water. These horse-sized deer require energy-rich food. Aquatic plants can provide this and make up a substantial part of their diet. Because they are heavily hunted, they are mainly active at night, preferring to retreat to the safety of dense forests during the day. Trees find it difficult to gain a foothold in this rugged landscape. Every patch of soil is valuable. They populate the steepest slopes and the smallest islands. Water is seldom far away, and so the trees are able to survive, even where very little else is available to them. In the birch forests, the northern hawk owl gets an uninvited guest. Muskoxen. In the spring, calves were born. They are now led into the forest, where they can find enough leaves and buds. At birth, the calves already weigh an impressive 10 kilograms. As adults, they end up at 20 to 40 times that. Cradle of the hawk owl chick is the old black woodpecker cavity, ideally suited for raising youngsters for this relatively small owl. The chick is not yet able to swallow the mouse hole. The parent has no other option but to tear its prey into bite-sized portions for the chick. Three-toed woodpecker and fieldfare are the closest neighbours. Just a few days later, the young owl attempts a first jump. Although it isn't yet able to fly, the parents carefully keep an eye on every step. And these steps are really hard work. As quickly as possible, this so-called branchling must get back up off the ground where danger lurks. Firmly anchored, it waits for its next meal. The fieldfare must keep warming its still naked chicks, but fear of the neighbours still prevails. The welfare of one bird brood is paid for by the loss of another. Clearly the chick has practiced wolfing down food. With such a racket, it's understandable that something will miss the target. Northern hawk owls are unusual in that they hunt during the day, becoming less active as dusk descends. Cranes gather in the swamps to sleep. In this ankle-deep water, they're safe from most potential predators. Only now does the moose really become active. Protected by the darkness, it often wanders great distances through the forests. The Norwegian coastline undoubtedly is one of the country's most spectacular landscapes. No other country can offer something comparable. In a straight line, the whole coastline, including fjords, bays and islands, would measure 101,000 kilometers, 2.5 times the circumference of the planet. Some fjords penetrate hundreds of kilometers inland and are over 1 kilometer deep. They are reminders of the Ice Age. Once mighty glaciers ground their way to the sea here. Ice and rubble cut deep valleys into the rock. When the glaciers melted and the ocean level rose, the valleys filled with water, forming the fjords that can be seen today. The steep cliffs don't end at the water's surface. Below, the cliffs often drop down as far again. Where enough light falls, anemones and sea squirts colonize the rocks. Norway even boasts corals. Dead Man's Fingers, however, is a soft coral that does not form a calcareous skeleton and therefore does not form reefs. The lion's mane jellyfish is often given a wide berth, respected for its burning tentacles. Some giants attain a diameter of 2 meters, with arms of up to 30 meters dragging behind them. A little further down the rock face, a European squid has attached its eggs. During the day, the animals hide at far greater depths. No light can penetrate into the water beyond 50 meters. Tube worms replace anemones here. At the first sign of danger, they retreat into their tubes at lightning speed. King crabs reach around 1 meter in size, thanks to their unusually long legs. A cuckoo wrasse. These fjord residents are something special. At first, they develop into red females, before transforming into blue males later in their lives. Norway is known for its abundance of fish. For over 1,000 years, many people have lived from fishing. A cod lies in wait. Like the cod, the lemon sole is a typical bottom dweller, often ending up served on the plates that they resemble. The gurnard has adapted to life on the ocean floor so well that its pectoral fins have been transformed into cursorial legs. This gurnard and weaverfish are just 2 of millions of ocean creatures that participate in one of the world's greatest mass migrations every night. Countless animals hide from predators in the depths during the day. At night, they move nearer to the surface. Thanks to light and warmth from the sun, the water here holds more nutrients. The squid too take part in this nocturnal upwards trend. The reddish color indicates that they are in mating mode. Only in the spring do these squid travel so far north, where they mate and spawn. They come in large schools, where the males compete for the females. A rival challenges the male. With lightning speed, it turns into a white ghost. The red pigment cells retract within fractions of a second, exposing the light-colored layers of skin beneath. After a short while, the dispute is cleared up with the male returning to its mating dress. As quickly as they appeared, they vanish again. When dawn breaks, another bundle of eggs will hang from the rock face somewhere below. Norway's fjords are extreme in every way, and the main tourist attraction of the country. The Preikestolen, Preacher's Chair in English, draws 300,000 visitors annually. The natural cliff platform is perched 600 meters above the Fjord, near the city of Stavanger. Almost everywhere, the west coast drops off steeply. Wind and waves constantly chisel and change the face of the coast. Over millions of years, unique sculptures have formed in this way. Near constant westerly winds churn up the oceans. To live here, residents need to develop a very good hold. The huge brown algae anchor themselves on the rock with strong root-like organs. The common spider crab seems less effective. The currents wash ample food into the arms of the sea anemones. Abundant plankton attracts schools of fish, which in turn attract grey seals. Apart from the polar bears of Svalbard, they are Norway's largest predators, living all along the coastline. They reach a size of over 2 meters and can weigh up to 300 kilograms. The underwater hunters can dive for up to 20 minutes. They're always on the lookout for a variety of fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods. Nearby, harbour seals enjoy some time in the sun. They're clearly smaller than their cousins. Both seal species will often use small submerged rocks side by side. Here they feel safe because they can flee into the water quickly. On land, these animals are shy and dive away at any disturbance. But in the ocean, they are truly in their element, quick, agile, and a lot more confident. Harbour seals, unlike grey seals, are able to swim soon after birth, when the pups can follow their mothers into the water. The Norwegian coastline, with all its small bays and islands, offers a perfect habitat for these animals. A special part of the coastal region is the Lofoten archipelago. The ragged island group stretches over 150 kilometers into the Norwegian Sea. The Islands of Light. Geologically, the Lofoten Islands belong to the oldest formations on the planet. Some rocks are over 1 billion years old. The way they look today is down to the same elements that shape the rest of the coastline, a continual remodeling process. The Lofotens lie beyond the Arctic Circle, but their temperatures are appreciably higher than elsewhere at these latitudes. In Greenland and Alaska, for example, it gets around 20 degrees colder. It's the Gulf Stream, Europe's natural heat pump, that provides the archipelago with its year-round temperate climate. This has led to an unexpectedly diverse flora developing so far in the north. The ocean here has worked its way deep into the ancient rock over millions of years, creating Caribbean-style beaches. A suitable place to experience a special natural spectacle. The midnight sun. During the summer months, the sun never sets on the Lofoten Islands. These shorebirds are not influenced by the eternal light. Instead of getting their orientation from the day-night cycle, they keep an eye on the tides. Only when the water ebbs and the beach is clear can they search for worms, shells, and any other morsels to eat. It requires a bit of luck to get to see the midnight sun on the Lofoten Islands. The maritime climate doesn't just cause mild temperatures, but also ensures a regular, dense blanketing of clouds. On average, it rains here every other day. Mountain peaks are regularly obscured by clouds. Also typical, however, is that the sky suddenly clears even after the heaviest showers. For a short moment, it shows its face, the midnight sun. An abundance of cliffs, surrounded by fish-rich waters, is paradise for seabirds. Around 800 kilometers further south lies the little island of Runda, another ornithological hotspot. Particularly the western slope, which faces the open ocean, provides a haven for many seabirds. Every summer, hundreds of thousands congregate here to breed. From here, they can depart directly for their fishing grounds. The stateliest inhabitants of the steep cliffs are the northern gannets. At around 3 kilograms in weight and boasting a wingspan of around 2 meters, they are the largest seabird in the northern hemisphere. True gliding masters. Sailing along, they observe everything that moves in the water below. They can spot their prey from a height of over 40 meters. "3,000 pairs breed on the island every year, and numbers are on the rise." To protect their offspring, the colonial breeders construct their nests on narrow ledges on the cliff faces. Pairs always greet each other with a ritualized billing or fencing duel. On Runda, however, a much smaller bird steals the show. The Atlantic puffin. The clowns of the seas, like most seabirds, only stay on these cliffs during the breeding season. With around 100,000 pairs, they form the biggest breeding population on the island. No wonder this likable bird is the island's emblem. Pairs breed either in crevices or in self-dug burrows. Their dirty bibs reveal the busy diggers that often penetrate up to a metre into the ground. The bird's small wings are better adapted for diving than they are for flying. Often their arrival is nothing more than a controlled crash landing. But sometimes their arrival can be surprisingly elegant. Atlantic puffin pairs remain lifelong partners. When the partner returns from the hunt, the first thing they do is an extensive billing session. This strengthens the pair bond. It seems that even among puffins, there are some pairs that have nothing left to say to each other. Neighbourly relations are not always as amenable as you would wish. Through typical bill movements, the birds threaten. To this point, but no step further. Annoying when the opponent interprets the situation the same way. In the colony's airspace, utter chaos seems to reign. Yet every bird seems to know precisely where it needs to go. The breeding season is now coming to an end. A feeling of departure seems to be spreading through the colony. Soon the feathered comedians will leave the island, until they return in the coming spring. While the island's cliffs gradually empty, the first harbingers of winter have already arrived in the fowls. By late summer, the first snowstorms begin to rage in the Highlands. Soon the reindeer will begin returning to the protected valleys. The muskoxen, on the other hand, will again gather on the mountaintops, where the wind ensures a thinner layer of snow, allowing easier access to the sparse vegetation. The short but intense Norwegian summer is over. One by one, the fowls disappear under a thick blanket of snow. Once again, water will be bound as ice and snow for a good 6 months. But when the sun rises from its slumber in the early summer, the endless cycle will begin once again, slowly melting the land of fjords and fells to new life.